I would like to ask now two speakers, two ladies actually, Ms. Elżbieta Antosiewicz and Ms. Karolina Bać, to present us the topic freedom of speech in social media, glitch or real value. So the floor is yours, madams.
Good morning. On behalf of the co-author and myself, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our paper during today's conference. The topic of our speech is as follows: freedom of speech in social media, glitch or real value. How do social media and algorithms affect freedom of speech? Do social networking sites break it by deleting content? Freedom of expression, whether expressed directly or through the media, is traditional constitutional freedom. Article 54 of the Polish Constitution guarantees three distinct but interrelated freedoms: freedom of expression, freedom of information, and freedom of always information. The freedom of express opinions, to acquire and to disseminate information shall be ensured to everyone. Preventive censorship of the means of social communication and the licensing of the press shall be prohibited. Statutes may require the receipt of a permit for the operation of a radio or television station. The expression view in this case should be understood as broadly as possible as expressing personal judgments, presenting opinions, or assumption informing about facts, etc. This freedom is applicable both in the public and private spheres, although it is of particular importance in public space, social, and especially political life. It covers natural and legal persons. The form of expressing views may be any, not necessarily through verbal statements, for example, by wearing a specific outfit. The freedom to obtain information may relate to collection of data from any spheres of public life. Article 61 of the Constitution imposes an obligation on the authors to provide relevant information or private life. Dissemination of information should be understood as making the collected data available to third parties, individually selected, or disseminating it, for example, making it public through social media. This confirms the constitutional principle of freedom of the press contained in Article 14. He also points out that censorship is prohibited. We should treat freedom of speech as an opportunity to express our views freely. Moreover, we have the right to do so both in private and public spheres. We should not be punished for this in any way. Violation of the right to freedom of speech in our country is not so rare. It takes various forms. Today, we most often hear about cases of blocking certain content on social media. Many of us see that more and more posts are deleted by social media platforms, and users are faced with blocking or even deletions of their accounts. They are the mercy of the portal with rather limited room for manicure. On the other hand, there is freedom of speech and everyone has the right to express themselves. However, they also have to obey the laws of the country in which they operate. However, these are not the only forms of violating this, one of the fundamental freedoms. Another form of suppression of the freedom of speech is the use of Article 220 of the Penal Code, that is defamation. This repeatedly cited provision of Polish criminal law, the elimination of which for years has been debated by the journalist circles, is an effective tool limiting the freedom of expression. Hacknet comments on the internet may be considered libel. Sometimes even the truthfulness of accusation cannot protect the punishment. To talk about slander, the perpetration's actions may take various forms, but must be a kind of assessment of the injured party conduct. If these slanderous comments appeared on the internet, their author, apart from a fine or penalty of restriction of liberty, is also subject to a penalty of imprisonment of up to 1 year because he committed this act by means of mass communication, which is in Article 220 of Civil Code. Now I give the floor to Elżbieta.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I will continue our presentation. However, freedom of speech has its limits, both legal as well as those not burdened with court penalties, limits of decency. Our freedom of speech must not infringe upon another person's interest or even harm them. Along with the growing popularity of social media, anonymous accounts whose task was to hate others or even harass others began to appear more and more often. Increasingly, the media could hear about phishing, bullying, and pedophilia. On the one hand, right-wing organizations complain that their profiles are removed, blocked, or suspended. On the other hand, let us remember that there is a large group of people who complain that they are victims of hate speech and violent content. They too should have the right to appropriate response. Therefore, we must remember that these values need to be balanced somehow. Currently, it is most often misused on the internet. Criticizing on the internet has become a feature of this medium. It is often devoid of integrity, vulgar, and unnecessary, but apparent anonymity allows for the expression of any opinions regarding current social events and figures in public life. Criticism is expressed on forums, in comments under articles, or on individual blogs. However, the signature does not have to mark the owner. This is the power of the internet. It is barrier-free and responsibility-free. Nevertheless, it must not be forgotten that public figures are exposed to various criticism due to their activities in social life, which is permitted by law. However, the line between criticism and an attack on a person's good name is thin. Currently, we have a situation in which Facebook has over 2 billion users. Twitter is enormous importance for creating opinions in the world of politics and diplomacy. Instagram plays a large role among young people and LinkedIn for business. These are powerful mechanisms to influence public debate. It is a little late to say that the state should not care what is going on there, and that what we can leave it up to these actors to make the rules.
The Ombudsman, Adam Bodnar, pointed out that the state should absolutely enter these areas, but it should not be an absolutely single member state of the European Union, but the entire community. The Union has the tools that allow it to effectively influence entities that operate on the pan-European market. It's worth remembering that virtually all major social media platforms tend to cross national borders, most of them global. Regulating these areas from the perspective of domestic law may result in the growing problem of censorship rather than adequately protecting the rights of both factions. However, there are legitimate concerns that state regulation of this sphere may lead to censorship of content that is voiced by political opponents. Based on the practice so far, we can expect that the content referring to the criticism of the authorities under the slogan that is disinformation will be censored, or for example, offensive information or satires about the authorities will be regarded as contrary to good morals. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you so much for your speaking, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for cooperating during that Feast of Our Minds. And I would like to ask the director of the Institute of Justice, or Mr. Bartłomiej Oręziak, for closing that conference.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear speakers, this is closing the conference. And in fact, respecting your time, your scientifically acclaimed presentation, your valuable reflection, I don't want to destroy anything. So therefore, briefly, and the end of the conference, I would like to thank all the participants, speakers, and guests who took part in today's event. It was a pleasure to be able to attend the meeting with you. Thank you very much once again. And I consider that the conference is closed. Thank you very much.